Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to look at the African Nightcrawlers that I just received a few days ago. So I got them on the 27th here of May, and today's the 31st. And I want to check in on them because we've had a real cold spell here where I live. Typically we'd be in like the 70s to 90 degree weather right now, and it was dropping down into the 40s at night. And I checked the bin a couple times with my temperature gauge, and it was saying it was right around 65 degrees. And that was starting to worry me a little bit with how chilly it's been. Now, it's supposed to warm up, but I'm still worried. The worms aren't moving around a whole lot, it looks like. I'm just sort of checking on them, not digging around yet. But we're going to dig in today, and I think we're going to put a seed mat underneath to kind of heat it up a little bit, get the worms really going. We're going to add some more moisture to the bin and double check the moisture levels. Still not going to add any food yet. I just want them to get used to this material and everything. I don't know what they were raised in, if they were raised in compost or manure or food scraps like I do. And depending on what they were raised on can make a huge difference on how they react in this bin. So typically when you get worms, if they've been raised on manure, they're not going to do too well with food scraps. They're not acclimated to it, and it can take a lot longer to get the bin kind of going. It takes them a while to get used to that food source, and sometimes it even takes a generation of worms before they really are comfortable with it because that's what they grew up with. So let's start by taking a look at the bin, see how it's doing, and take a temperature reading, and go from there and see what we need to do to get this functioning a little bit better. So let's go and take a look. All right, so here we go. We've got the bin that has A and C on it. I have the date up top here, just so you can see here. It says 5/27, so I'll update that to today's date afterwards, but let's just put this in view here, and you can see we still just have the bubble wrap on top. You can see some of the moisture sort of peeking through here a little bit. I'm just going to move this off like this. There was some stuff that built up on top of it here. And there's some things stuck to the bottom, so we're going to be very careful. I'm going to move this off to the side. Now, let's just take a look in here and see how this is doing. Let me grab my glove. Actually, first thing first, let's just do a temperature check here. So, let's see if you can see this. I'm not sure if you're going to view this or not, but it is, 69 degrees. It's hard for me to read that backwards. Yeah, 69 degrees in there. So it's warmed up a little bit since the other day where it was down right around 65. But let's just dig down in here and take a look and see how they're doing. I haven't seen many on the surface. It's starting to dry out along these edges. But the center still looks plenty moist. And look at that. First handful right here. You can already see the worms are digging in. They're moving. They're fairly lively. Now, I don't know if the cocoons will look the same or not. If you see any, please let me know. This might be a little bit more detailed to you than it is to me. But it looks like the worms are able to survive in here. It looks a little bit dry, and I think they're cold. So we're just going to dig this up a little bit and just kind of turn it over, just to see if any have dug down into the material. And some of them have. Some of them actually dug way down here into the material. But they don't look very lively, and I've heard that these worms are supposed to be pretty lively when they're moving around and stuff. So I think most of them stayed in this top section right here where they were, where I initially dumped them in. They're not moving around a whole lot, and that's why I really wanted to start trying to get this right before they just die off in here, and I just view this as a failed bin. So as you can see, this one right here is not moving around a whole lot. It looks it looks like it's dying. So, and as I said, these did take a long time to get to me, and that is not the fault of the company that sent them to me. That is the fault of the Postal Service for taking 10 days. But it's time to start getting this working properly. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I've got my spray bottle, and we're going to add some more moisture to the top and see if we can get them some more moisture in here. Content looks a little bit light on moisture. And there's a slight odor to it, which makes me think that some of the worms are dying off in here. And I'm probably sort of smelling them as they die off, which doesn't normally happen in my bins. I'm usually pretty good about keeping the worms alive, but I think that they've gone through a rough time. And this water, by the way, I warmed it up. It's about 70 degrees, so it's not like overly hot. I don't want to just spray on 80-degree water or anything like that, but I just want to kind of bring the temperature up a little bit, get a little bit more pressure in here. I did, as I said, I added the hot water here, but I also did with doing that, there was one other thing that I did do, and that is I added dechlorinator just to make sure that there was nothing added. There was no heavy metals or anything like that. This should be water that's from my tap that's pretty safe. So we're just going to get this top pretty wet. Really let it soak in there. And then what we're going to do here is I'm going to add a seed mat. Now this is something I've gone back and forth on. I really don't normally do this, but I do have a seed mat that's not currently being used. And it's this one right here. This is something I purchased off of Amazon. It's just a little bit smaller than this. It's supposed to heat it between 70 to 85 degrees. So, you know, according to right here. And I did find that this worked for my seeds. So we're going to put this underneath here. By the way, I have this, just so you know, on a cutting board. This was up in my kitchen. So we're just going to move this off to the side here for a second. I'm going to put this, the cord's on the other side, so I've got to flip it upside down to you. But we're going to put this on top of this cutting board right here. And I'm going to put this back on top. And this should heat up through the plastic and heat this bin up to around, you know, let's say around 80 degrees or at least 75, and kind of get this a little bit warmer for them. And while we're doing that, let's just put this plastic wrap back on top of this bubble wrap here. Now there are gaps on the sides here, as I showed before. You know, there's a gap at the bottom and there's a gap here at the top to let air through. I did not cut this exact, and some people have said I probably should cut this exact, so maybe we'll do that. Actually, we'll do that right now while we're getting this set up. We'll just cut this to be exactly the correct size. I've got my scissors over here, and it looks like about right here along this seam would be the perfect place to cut it. Actually, it might just rip there along that seam, and it will. So this is a perforated seam that was already there. So we're going to rip that, and that might leave a little bit of a gap along the side, but I think that'll be pretty good. So it'll leave a little gap all around all the edges, which means that the edges might dry out and it'll keep them towards the center, so that way they hopefully won't escape. As I said, we're not going to add any food this time. I really don't want to start adding food yet. I'm afraid that they're not acclimated and it just could rot in here, and then that could be another problem that I'm dealing with. Bedding should be ample enough for them to eat. I've also heard that these worms love, and I mean absolutely love, their cardboard. So there's a lot of cardboard and wood pellets in there. So we're just going to plug this heater in, which I'm doing right now. So we're going to plug this in, and we're going to get this hopefully warmed up. So I'm going to come back tomorrow, and we'll check the temperature here. Actually, I'm going to center this a little bit more on the mat here. And hopefully this warms up, and these worms start to get a little bit more active. You know, it's just one of those things where you just got to sort of watch it. You got to judge it based on how it's going. Right now, I think that this is not doing great. I think it needs this to help these worms get acclimated, especially after such a rough journey here, where I have no idea where they were stopped, but they were all around the Northeast, I think. It looks like from the shipping manifest. So they were in some cold weather, and they might have been left in the trucks overnight, which would have been pretty bad as well, you know, as far as temperature-wise and everything. So that's my update. We're going to just continue to let this cover. Hopefully we'll come back in a week and I'll be able to say, look how well they're doing, and they've really eaten some of this stuff, but we'll have to wait and see how that turns out. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. And, you know, as I said, I am taking your comments. I did cut this down a little bit, and we'll go from there. And thank you for watching.